Thank you so much for such an amazing introduction. That's the first time ever to have that such a warm and sort of detailed and interesting introduction. Yeah, Huddersfield Town Support then, of course. Premiership. Okay, I also would like to thank the organising committee who are at the front. It's my first time to come to Thailand, and I'm really happy to come to this city as well. This is a beautiful city. I've already thoroughly enjoyed myself yesterday. Excellent. So, because we're a little bit behind time, I'm going to just push on. So, today, you'll know the theme is revitalising and enriching ELT research. And in my field, I have two fields that I work a lot in. One is corpus linguistics and the other is English for specific purposes. And both of those fields have areas for revitalisation and enriching. But as we just heard, I recently published a book in English for specific purposes, which really kind of had this as its goal, to revitalise and enrich English for specific purposes. So I thought that would be a nice topic to talk about today. Look at what ESP was, and look at maybe how we can move it forward into the 21st century. So this book really presents the key concepts and practices of ESP in a modern, and that's really important, contemporary, balanced, comprehensive way. It explains the four pillars of ESP in terms of needs analysis, language and learning objectives, materials, methods, and evaluation. And it also discusses some of these challenges, these hotly debated issues and challenges in ESP. So I thought it really did fit well with the theme of the conference. Some of you may be thinking, oh, he's going to talk about AntConc, his conference talk. I will briefly mention it, but it's actually not the main focus of this talk, so I hope I don't disappoint some of you if you're waiting for that. I will be introducing some other tools, though, and all of those tools are on my website, so I hope this is still working. So if you go to my website, I think you may have seen it here, this horrible picture there, and if you go to the software page of my website, all the tools I'm introducing today will be on that page. So if you want to know where this information is coming from, it's going to be all there. Okay, so I'm going to start by discussing revitalizing ESP for the 21st century, redefining it, repositioning it, and then reformulating the roles of anybody in ELT who will be working in ESP. So repositioning the role of ESP instructors. Then I'll talk, maybe the main part is really enriching contemporary ESP. So what tools and what methods can we use to create new source materials for ESP that we can introduce to the students and maybe analyze and then present to the students, new methods for language analysis. As a teacher, we might want to learn more about a discipline, a specific discipline, so what methods can we use? And then in the classroom, some new methods that we can maybe introduce to the students so that they can learn a little bit more about some specific disciplines. And then the second part of the theme is looking to the future. So what is the future for ESP now? So a little bit, not what's happening now, but what I think is going to be happening from now. Okay, so revitalizing ESP for the 21st century. And I first want to just clarify, revitalize is a complex word with lots of connotations, and some of these are like repair, resuscitate, revive. So I'm not suggesting that ESP is dead, okay? But I think more that we need to freshen it, recharge it, rejuvenate it in some sense. So ESP is not dead, we do need, but there are things that we do need to look at. So a traditional definition of ESP, this is from Dudley Evans and St. John back in 1998. It's probably the most well-known definition of ESP, and it's defined to meet specific needs of the learner. Okay, makes use of underlying methodology and activities of the discipline. Everybody's okay with this, I think. Centered on the language, of course, the skills, the discourse, and the genres appropriate to these activities. And that's pretty non-controversial. I think everybody would understand ESP as that. The problem has been, I feel, that in that book, these were absolute characteristics, but Dudley Evans and St. John also introduced these variable characteristics. That's kind of become what people think ESP is. And they said it may be related to specific disciplines, it may use a different methodology to that of general English, it's likely to be designed for adult learners, tertiary level, professional work situations. It could be for secondary school, but probably not. And it's generally designed for intermediate or advanced students, and so on. And when you see ESP framed like this, it's like, oh, it's really complicated. Which for advanced learners in like specific disciplines doesn't really concern us. And I really don't think that's a good way to see ESP. And if we look at ESP and the core principles, they're not these, I think. So in that book, I've kind of redefined it in a much simpler, maybe, I hope, easier way. So English-specific purposes, in my view, and I hope we agree, is an approach to language teaching first. So it relates to us all, okay? And it targets the current, but also the future academic or occupational needs of the learners. So it's not just what they want to do now or what they need to do now, it's also looking to the future, what they might need to do in the future, or could do. And it focuses on the language, the genres, and the skills to address these needs. That's kind of non-controversial, I think. And it assists learners in meeting these needs through general and discipline-specific teaching materials and methods. So it can use general teaching approaches. ESP is not completely different from our regular teaching. So if you see ESP as just focusing on needs to address the needs of the students now in the future, and then maybe some senses discipline-specific, then I think that's what ESP is. And I hope that kind of clarifies some of the confusion about it. There's another confusion about ESP, and that is this idea that and a lot of researchers in this slide you'll see, talk about ESP, EOP versus EAP, as if they're different things. So ESP and EAP, you see this everywhere. ESP and EAP. So that's kind of suggesting that ESP is kind of like the workplace thing, the professional thing, and then everything that we do in the universities is EAP. But that also is kind of misunderstanding what this is all about. ESP is not for the workplace, adults, advanced. And I think it's really more like this. So ESP is EAP and EOP, and there's a lot of overlap between the two. It's just addressing needs in specific areas. So don't think of ESP as like workplace and that's all it's related to, or we don't need to care about it. I think it's a general teaching approach that can be useful for everybody. Okay, so if we positioned ESP as this, what I've just defined it as, we can then see where it fits on the language content continuum. And this is another misconception that's been created through a lot of people's writing, actually. So we have grammar translation. Far on the left, language only, no content, in a sense. Then we have the communicative language teaching approach, which kind of comes in a little bit, things like shopping and web and so on. And then we have newer things like content-based instruction, content-mediated instruction, where teachers would pick a topic and talk about it, like global warming maybe, something like that. Then we go right to the end, where we have English-mediated instruction, where we teach mathematics, physics, law, economics in English. Now, I think you will probably be recognizing here in Thailand, but certainly in Japan and in other areas in Asia, is this going that way. There's more and more focus on English-mediated instruction, and there is kind of a conception that ESP is dead because EMI has come in. I think that's a little bit confusing here. I think that idea or conception is confused. ESP, for academic purposes, or nursing, or business, or English for pilots, is not, well, it's been often described as an alternative to traditional English teaching methods, but I don't think that's really what it is. I think it's more of a support in some sense. So I would like to put ESP and EMI in the same bracket, but not with one replacing the other. But ESP really plays a supportive role in the content language curriculum. So ESP can support the teaching of mathematics in English, or physics in English, or economics in English. Okay, so ESP is not dead because EMI's come in. In fact, you could argue that because EMI is becoming important, then ESP is becoming also more and more important. that's and of course, then we get this new term, content and language integrated learning, or CLIL. And people have often said, oh, CLIL is ESP, or ESP is CLIL. But I think this idea of EMI and ESP is combining together is where CLIL is kind of gone. So we don't forget ESP and just teach in English. We do need the support of an ESP way of thinking. Okay, and then the last thing about this, the revitalization, is the reformulating of our roles in this world. So any kind of ESP course, and you could think of any kind of FLLT course, any kind of language course, has 4 components. At the bottom, we have needs analysis. What do the students need? What do the teachers need? What does the university need? All the stakeholders. On the left, we have the language and learning objectives. So what are we going to teach? What are the students going to learn? And on the right, we have the materials and methods. How are we going to get them to know this or learn this? And then at the top, we have the evaluation of that. Traditionally, in ESP, especially back in the 60s and 70s, ESP people were generally isolated in the program, and they were doing something different from everybody else. So you'll see a lot of researchers, even today, talking about an ESP practitioner. This was a term developed by, coined by Swales back in 1985, and you must have seen this somewhere in the literature. An ESP practitioner is a teacher, is a course designer, is a materials provider, is a collaborator, a researcher, or evaluator. And when you see that, and you think of your teaching schedule, you think, I don't want to do ESP. That's way too much work for me. So as a teacher in the middle there, you're going, no way, can I do all of this? I think that's a very old view of ESP, where one person on their own doing everything. It's still around. People do still get that horrible position of having to do everything. But ESP is more successful, I think, and we can demonstrate it actually, if you think of ESP, an ESP instructor as a team member. So we have the instructor, but we also have the students, and we have the administrators, the course administrators, instructors working together to create materials, involving researchers in other departments maybe to work together to create this program. So don't think of ESP as on your own, doing your own thing. Think of it as a course development in the general English faculty or the ELT faculty, everybody working together to create a program for learners. I think it becomes more reasonable then. Not one person is doing everything. Okay, so how do we enrich that model? How can we kind of move ESP forward a little bit more? There's so many things I could talk about here, but we don't have that much time. So I'm going to focus on a few things. Okay, so first, enriching. What does that mean? Well, there are a lot of connotations for enriching too, and I checked on the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and I saw beautify, decorate, doll up, do up, fancify, fancy up, gussy up, pretty up. We're not talking about that, right? We're not talking about making it look better. We're talking about what can we do to make it better. Okay, so how can we make ESP better? Okay, so I'm going to focus on a few things here. New source materials that we can use, new methods, and new approaches to teaching. Okay, I can't do everything. No. I brought it here. I learned a long time ago, if there is any chance to plug your book, take it. Okay, so let's talk about new source materials first. Okay, so what source materials do we have for teaching EAP, for example? And I'm going to focus here on written EAP just to simplify the discussion, but we could go to spoken as well. Well, we have textbooks. And most people who have to teach an ESP course will pick up a textbook and teach English for academic purposes, or academic vocabulary, and so on. These are great, okay? But that's not enriching. That's what we already have, okay? We also have a lot of written samples, expert written samples, like research paid articles we can download from the internet. We can get technical reports from maybe other people in the departments and so on. We can also go online and search for general corpus data. I say general English corpus data, like BNC, British National Corpus, COCA, the Corpus of Contemporary American English, the Brown Corpus from the 1960s. There's lots of online corpus corpus data for general English, and a few for discipline-specific data, but not as much. Of course, we can also go and just get the students' papers. We can look at their reports, their essays, their theses, we can analyze that, and we can also download corpus data from learners. So things like BOR is the British Academic Written English Corpus, or the MICUSP, Michigan Corpus of University, I forget now. Okay, MICUSP. I forget the acronym. But it's, again, that's right, Michigan University Corpus of University Student Papers. So again, learner writing that you can download and analyze. Okay, but we think about enriching this. So how do we collect discipline-specific source materials? Well, we can identify a target as target, like chemistry or economics or law, but the PDF files, is actually identifying suitable PDF files in different fields is difficult for us because we're not experts in the field. So which journal should we use and so on? We could ask the specialist, but that's one problem. Another problem, maybe bigger problem, is even if we know what data to get, downloading it, converting it into a form for analysis is not, well, it's very time consuming and introduces noise as well. And the other problem is cleaning it and annotating it for like title, abstract materials, and so on. Annotating it is also a hugely time consuming job. Okay, so can we enrich this? Can we get more materials easier? Okay, so I'm going to introduce two things here. The first thing is a tool called AntFile Converter, released the latest release is in 2017, and it automatically converts PDF files and Word files to text for analysis with corpus analysis tools. It's of course freeware, it's multi-platform for Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it's portable, so students and you can just put it in a USB stick and run it. Really simple tool, and I'll just show you why it might be useful for you. Okay, so imagine, switch here. We have, let's do our file converter. We have a whole lot of student writing. Okay, student essays. I will show you these. I do have permission to show you these. So here's an experiment description from a student, and we want to analyze that and find out where the errors are or what problems the students may have and so on. How do we get that data into a form for analysis? It's like open save. Well, the tool that I've introduced is called AntFile Converter. And what this tool allows you to do, just double click, and we're going to open the files. Now, here it's looking for PDF initially, but if it's not, we can just click and choose Word files. Like this. We can select them all, and then we click Start, and that's it, finished, we've done it. Okay, so what we now have in that folder is a whole set of text versions of the original data that we can then load into AntDoc or other corpus tools and analyze the words and the phrases and so on. I won't demonstrate AntConf because I think you've seen that before. Okay, I might do it a little bit later. So now we have raw text data that shows the same information and we can analyze it. Okay, so that's one demo. Okay, so, but we can do something even more interesting. Okay, imagine we want to collect discipline-specific expert writing, maybe PDFs from specific journals and things like that. So this is a big problem because the downloading and saving can be noisy and time-consuming. So I created last year AntCoreGen, also on the website, which is an automatic discipline-specific corpus creation tool. Okay, it's again freeware, multi-platform, and portable. What it does is it goes to this PLOS ONE international multidiscipline journal, multidiscipline. So it's not, it has a lot of bioscience and pharmaceutical science, but it also has social science, economics, law, and so on. So it's a multidisciplinary journal, and the software goes to the journal and allows you, all the students, to pick which articles to download and then it downloads. And I'll show you, it's kind of nice. So this is what it looks like. And you're not going to see this very easily. I'll do a live demo in a moment. But we basically choose the folder to download the data into. We can search for search words in disciplines. We could search for ESP, for example, if we wanted to. But it also has a list of categories. The PLOS One journal automatically categorizes every research paper into a theme. So we can pick bioscience or social science or maths. Okay? What's amazingly useful is we can also select which part of the research article to download. So we can choose titles or abstracts or introductions or methods or figures and things like that. And then we click create and we make it. It's that easy. So let's do it. We've got time. Okay. So here's the software. This is live now. I hope the internet's working. Okay. So you can see here what I just showed you. The top, we're going to choose a folder. Okay? And let's call this folder My Data. My Data. Okay? So we're going to select that. Now, if you look in the middle, I hope you can see this a little bit easier. We have a whole lot of categories like bio and life science, computer science, earth science, medicine, social science. Let's do something a little bit weird, like biology and life science. And here we'll look at 88,000 biochemistry papers. And in the biochemistry, let's look at 72 biocatalyst papers. Okay? Now, remember, as a teacher, you don't have to know the language of this. The idea is that you can download this and analyze it and teach it to the students. Or you could get the students to download this and you explain to them how to analyze it and learn from that. This is the DDL approach, which I might mention later. Okay, so here we have the title, the abstract. Let's get the introduction, the materials, the results, and the conclusions, and then we create it. So we're going to create 72 research papers. Fingers crossed. So it's going online, it's getting the data, and then thank you, done. So that's it. Now we can close the software because we don't need it anymore. What we now have in our program, we have my data. And in my data, we have all the categories of abstracts and introductions and titles and so on. So now what we can do, here's where AntConc comes in. We can open a corpus analysis software tool, like AntConc, load in our files. So let's load in, say, the titles of this very specific area and see what information is there. Okay? So I'm going to load in the titles. And of course, then we can look at the files. Okay? Okay, very complicated. Very complicated titles there. It's a little bit small. Maybe make that a little bit bigger for you. Fonts. Let's just make this really big for you to see. Okay. One hand is how. Okay. Like this. Do you know that title? Here's another one. The evolution of enzyme specificity in the metabolic replicator model of prebiotic evolution. Don't worry about the content here, because what we're interested in are what are the frequent words here. And we can find those like of, and the, and that's kind of boring. Oh no, it's not. Because of is a phrase title marker. It defines scope. A of B, in, of. For C, for is application. In is scope. By is method. So just by making this word list of titles, we actually get an understanding of how discipline-specific titles are constructed. We can teach that to students. We can also just give them examples. Here are examples of titles with methods included, and so on. Okay. So the idea of, I don't want to go too far with this, but the idea of the AntConc tool is it allows you to create very discipline-specific data Or more likely, let students create their own very specific data, and then you can explain to them how to analyze it, and then you don't have to know it. You can get away with just telling them how to analyze, how to understand language, but not the specifics of the content. Okay, that's an example. So here's just a screenshot of AntCoGen combined with AntCog for that kind of analysis. Okay, so what else can we do? Okay, new methods for language analysis. And what I showed you there of opening AntCog and doing direct analysis is not really new. I could have focused on that today, but I heard that many of you already know about AntCog and Corpus, so I didn't want to go there. I hope you're familiar with this, and if you're not, please speak to me later, or email me, and I will be happy to explain. So, how can we identify characteristic features of English for academic purpose and English for occupational purpose source language? What are the features that we need to teach the students? Okay. Well, the first way, of course, is to review the literature. We've got ESPJ, JEEP, as very well-known journals about characteristic features of disciplines. We can also speak to the experts. We can leave our departments, go across the campus to the mathematics department and speak to these strange people. Okay. Or we can analyze the language directly, which is what I just showed you. Here's an example of AntCog, so we download the data and we look at it. Okay, I have today a proposal which I think is kind of interesting. Okay, my proposal is a different way completely to that. Okay, why not try to locate, find prototypical examples of source language and then close read it. Literally just read properly, word by word. Read it properly and identify the characteristic features based on the prototypical example. So it's like finding the best example. Just one. Just one best example. Read that closely and find out what it does. Okay? As a linguist, or as a language teacher, we can read and find patterns. Okay. So I wrote this paper with Paul Baker about this idea of prototypical text detection. So prototypical means having the typical qualities of a particular group or kind of person or thing. Okay? So typical qualities of what you're looking at. Okay? The clearest, best, most typical, most representative example. We find that and then we read it. Slowly. So this is not corpus linguistics, which tends to be a bit more like just get frequency lists and just look at quick concordance lines. This is really just reading, but with prototypical examples. Okay. So I created this tool called ProTANT, Prototypical Text Analysis. Okay. Again, it's freeware, it's multi-platform, it's portable, it's language independent. This is important. So it will work with Thai and Korean and Chinese as well. And it ranks text by the number of target words, keywords, in the data set as a whole. So imagine like you download 100 research papers. Okay. It's going to look through all of them, find which words are keywords, and then rank all the text by the ones with the most of those in it. Do you get that idea? I'll show you an example now, and it will maybe clarify what we're talking about here. Okay, so a moment ago, do you remember I created this set of student examples? I had, how many? 17 student papers. Okay? 17 student papers. Which one is the best? Or which one is the worst? Okay, I want to find the best example so that I can show it to students in class and say this is a good example of the writing, and I can also then go to the worst one, the least prototypical, and say, and look at it, read it slowly, and find what is that student doing wrong. So we can go both ways. What's a good example? What's a bad example? Okay, so let's do it. Let's find Let's analyze this data and find out which are good and which are not good. Okay, so I'm going to launch program. Okay. Takes a little time. Wait. Okay, here it is. Okay, so here's the software. I think the software is fairly intuitive. We're going to load in the files that we're going to analyze. So that's easy. I can just pick our student papers, 17 of them. Okay. Now, what are we going to look for? What features do we want to look for prototypicality? So I thought, oh well, in this conference, Avril Coxhead is coming, and she is well known for creating an academic word list. So why don't we look at these articles and see which one has a lot of academic words in it, and which one doesn't? And maybe that will introduce a student error, problem, weakness. Okay, so we go to the keyword list, and I'm going to load in the Avril Coxhead academic word list. Just a list of all the words, academic words. Okay, and then we just do this. It's kind of quick. Done! So what this tool did, when I clicked start, what it did is it went to every file, it counted all the academic words in all the files, and then it ranked the text by how many academic words are in them, and sorted them at the top. So here at the bottom, we can see all the academic words. In the middle, sorry, it's so small, I couldn't make it bigger for this conference, but in the middle, you'll see every file and all the words in it. And if you really want, you could, of course, save these results, or you could just scan them like this. So which words are they using? But the interesting thing is at the top, which is a rank of the text. So text 8 has the most number of academic words in it. And of course, well, this is a course get well done. Okay? And at the bottom, of course, this student, number 16, has the least. This student has, you can see here, only 3 academic words are in this abstract. Now, you could say, oh, maybe it's okay, maybe it's not okay, but the advantage is you can check it. You can instantly find that one student only had 3 academic words in their paper, and then you can open it and read it and see what the problems were. Okay, so I did that. So let's go back here. So this is the most academic from those 17 students' papers. It's kind of an abstract or a summary of research. Okay, and if you look at it, there's writing problems, but in terms of academic word use, it's okay. I'm sure Avril will be able to explain later if this is really okay or not. But as an instructor, we can get instantly an idea of what academic words people are using. Okay. Okay, what about the worst one? Okay, well this is the worst. Now, it's not easy to see why. If you look instantly at this, you won't immediately recognize why this is poor in terms of academic word use. Now, I read this closely, and I do kind of understand why now. But maybe you look at this and think, okay, well, it's not too bad. Okay, there's a lot of technical words, but they're using suggest. Oh, next week I am going to. That's not very academic. Maybe that's the problem. The second least one, is this one. And I think everybody here will instantly recognize that this student doesn't get it. They're not writing an academic abstract here. So nowadays, I'm writing international conference report. My results that I thought that they are enough have been up there. It's kind of mixed up. They've got some of the words and others are really wrong. So as a teacher, you can now read this slowly, identify the language problems that this student has, and probably other students have the same problems, and then introduce it in class. So it is data-informed. You're not guessing. This is a real problem for one of the students in the class. It's not corpus-based. It is and it isn't. It is, but we're doing close reading to really understand why that student has a problem. Okay, so that's an idea of enriching the method. Okay, let's look at new approaches for to learn instruction now, and it kind of links to this. Maybe you can already see applications in the classroom for these methods, but I'm going to talk about a couple. Okay, so what chosen methods should we use to teach ESP? Now, as I've already mentioned, I think ESP is not an alternative to traditional methods. So I think problem-based learning, task-based learning, project-based, content-based, CLIL, they're all relevant to ESP. You can do all of these in the ESP class. So that's the first really important thing to understand. ESP is not the method as much as the intention. Right? So remember, ESP is an eclectic approach that takes the most useful, successful, and valid ideas from other theories and practices, combining them into a consistent whole. So project-based is great. Corpus linguistics is good. Grammar translation may be effective in certain cases. So that's the first thing to kind of really remember. Okay, just a second. Okay. But we do have some innovations coming out, and I'll show you two of these right now. Okay, so the first is that there are software tools now that will profile and simplify the language that you're presenting to students. So a tool like AntWord Profiler, if you know of this tool, allows you to load in your textbook, or maybe an example essay, profile the colors are not so clear on this screen, but profile the text, see which words are easy and difficult, see which words are Averill's academic words, and so on, and also edit the text to simplify it, okay, for ease of use. But we can also go the other way and make it more academic or more complicated, more academic, if you want, okay. But I don't want to introduce that, you may have seen this before, so I want to show you something very new, okay. And this is Ant Quick Tools, and it's really for students, I would say. So if a student is writing their essay, like we had before, we had a good student and a poor student, if they're writing, they want to be able to analyze their own vocabulary usage, and this tool is really for researchers, not really for students. So a student wants to have an online interface, they want to be able to copy and paste their file into the browser and be able to analyze it. So if you go online, it's ready now, you can type in Ant Quick Tools and you'll get what I'm going to talk about. Okay, so let me quickly demonstrate this. Okay, so let's see, hopefully the internet is working. Okay, so this is Ant Quick Tools. When you launch it, it launches with Averill Coxhead's definition of academic word list. Sorry. But it also highlights all the academic words that Averill used in her explanation of academic words. Now, the important thing is that this is editable. I can write anything I like here, and of course students can copy and paste their own text into this and see what it looks like. So I can now take the best example, remember this one? This is the student writing. Okay, let's do that again. One hand is never easy. Okay, so copy, I'm going to paste this into the software, like that. And you can see that this student, yeah, they're using a lot of academic words. Now, the grammar may be a problem, there may be other issues, but in terms of academic words, the student's using a lot. Now, what about the poor student? What does their text look like? Okay, so this was the week. Okay. It looks like this. Okay, nowadays I'm writing international conference report, where my results that I thought. Okay, the student has a few academic words here. Conference, consulted, method, and object. But they also say, therefore, I made a new programming. I made a new programming. Now, programming is already highlighted as an error, so we can fix that. I made a new program. And notice, it's an editable, live. They can also say, okay, made. Do we make new programs? Develop, how about develop? So as I type develop, that's not an academic word. That's a general English word. But it works, it works. An academic word would be create. So create is in April's list of academic words. Develop's okay too. Creates we could use. And at the bottom you can see results are enough for the conference. Enough? Is that a good academic word here? Sufficient. So what you can see happening is as the students are writing, it's highlighting live their academic word usage. This is kind of clever, by the way, to do this on web. I won't explain how we're doing this, but it's very kind of clever. Okay, so students can live type, see their academic words coming up as they're typing, and they can edit or simplify or make it more academic. So this tool and Quick Tools also has just a list of academic words. So if you wanted to check out how to what create looks like, we can see create and we get the list of all of those. So it's kind of a nice, easy tool for teachers and also I think for students. Okay, we're at 41 minutes, so let's keep going. Okay. Actually I'm going to skip this because we have a little bit of, we don't have so much time, so I'm going to skip kind of interesting thing, but in the interest of time, let's look to the future then. Okay. And if you're interested in what I was going to show you, maybe after the session I will show you that. Okay, so what is the future looking like for ESP? New environments, new roles, new responsibilities, and new technologies. Okay. First, let's think about the new environments. One huge change that's happening across all of ELT and all subjects and all universities is this introduction of massive open online communities, or MOOCs. They're really big. A rapidly growing number of general courses and also specialized courses have been created. We're also moving from participation in a MOOC, just taking it for fun, to accreditation. So that if you take the course, you get actually a certificate, a credit, and you could even graduate in some programs just through MOOC environments. So there's also a shift from elite universities. When I say elite, things like MIT were one of the first to create MOOCs. We had things like Stanford and places, to global platforms. So it's not a university anymore, it's a company or a consortium of people creating these MOOCs. So you may have heard of MIT OpenCourseWare, but then now we have FutureLearn, Coursera, edX, Udemy. And if you go across the world, we have so many of these now. Okay, so MOOCs are a big thing, but how does it impact on us? Okay, well, there is a shift towards outsourcing of ESP courses. I predict, this is future now, I predict that we're going to start having English classes removed from the English program and moved to an online environment. And it's already happening in certain places, but I'm not sure about Thailand. Okay? There's also a possible shift towards outsourcing specialized courses. And that's really happening. I'd say possible, but it's really happening a lot at the moment. Deep learning, AI, natural language processing, programming, they're all moving online. Okay? So, what does it mean for us? Well, a growing need for MOOC-like course creation. We're going to have to start creating these courses ourselves. We're going to have, the university will ask you, could you make a MOOC for the English program? So, do you know how to do that? But there's a technical impact there. And there's also increased support of non-English faculty in the ESP setting and less proficient workers in an ELP setting that need to create or learn from MOOCs. That's a long sentence, let me unpack that. So if the mathematics department of your university has to create a MOOC in English, then who will help them? You guys. They're going to come to the English faculty and say, how do we do this? How do we teach maths in English? And have could you check our pronunciation for when they video record it? Is the script okay? So our role suddenly becomes very important outside of English. Maths, chemistry, law, economics, they're all making moves. They all need our help. It also requires support for those learning from a MOOC. Can you see the bottom there? If your students in maths or law or economics are learning from a MOOC online, who's going to help them? Who's going to provide them the language support? Again, it's not the maths teachers, it's going to be us. So I think the MOOCs really have a big impact on us, technically, but also in terms of our position in the university. We're going to be more responsible for helping others create MOOCs. Okay, completely different thing. ESP in the world of big data and AI. Okay, this is my area. Okay, so there is now a lot more data on learners and instructors, just generally. The students' performances, the teachers' performances, what essays are given out, and so on. There's more ways to measure the performance in research and teaching of us guys. So the universities know how many publications you have, where you publish, what your impact is, what your student evaluations are, and so on. And there's also more advanced, large-scale language analysis. There's a lot of language data in the world, and everybody's using AI to analyze it. Big companies like Google and Facebook and so on. So the impacts are, first, more teacher accountability. We are going to have to be better teachers. And the universities will know, do the students like what we do? Okay? So ESP is maybe important there. There's a greater possibility for AI-enhanced learning. So you can use AI tools to help your teaching. Okay? Now, what I've shown you today isn't really AI, but you can imagine a more advanced AI system automatically highlighting words and phrases and giving suggestions for improvement. Right now, we know that translation is super good. AI translation now is amazing. And we've still got just a couple of minutes for this, so I'm on 47. Okay, so let me just show you how amazing AI is. Okay, right now. So here is a game theory, very technical economics or mathematics abstract, okay, from a research paper. So if I want to understand this, or if I'm a student who wants to understand this, okay, I can just go to Google Translate. Late, one hand. Okay, I can enter my text here, okay, and then I can translate it into Thai. Okay. AI. Oh, I've got to scroll down. Sorry about this. Thai. Now, the question is, do you understand this? How good is that? Now, I have no idea on Thai. But if you look at this, you will see there's some errors. But you'll also, I hope, agree, it's pretty good. Is it? Right? I don't know the time. Yeah, I know. I'm doing Japanese already. Here's Japanese. Okay. Now, what I can say, I know Japanese, and I can see that what it's very good at doing is translating the technical vocabulary. It's good at academic vocabulary, technical vocabulary. The grammar's a bit shaky. But I think most people can read that and get a sense of what this is about, which means students can. They don't need to have English reading skills like they used to, right? And they don't need writing skills like they used to, because they can always do this. They can take, oh, it's too long. Okay. They can take their Japanese and translated into English. The social interaction of classical cognitive games such as The Last Game and The Prison Dilemma leads to Nash equivalent where multiple competitive decision makers with perfect knowledge select the best strategy. Pretty good, right? For a Japanese to English, it's really good. Okay, so writing classes are going to change. We need to teach students how to use these tools well. Don't say to the student, don't use machine translation, because they will. Outside the class, they will. So you need to start thinking, how do we support students who use these tools in their homework, and how better to edit this translation to be a better report. It's kind of an interesting, kind of controversial issue there. And of course we have smart assistants that will help just speak and understand. Okay, last little point and then we're finished. Okay, so we also have, in the future, not yet but starting, ESP in the world of virtual reality. And you may think, no, come on, no way. Downtown I saw a VR game arcade where people can play with VR games. But, yeah. So VR is this idea of putting on a three-dimensional virtual world on your face and be able to interact in it. Okay. Now, the key trends are it's cheaper, they're more powerful, there's interest from big companies like Google and Facebook and so on, and there's a growing interest in educational applications. Maybe the killer app is not gaming, but education. So you may think, how can you use these in education? Well, already, VirtualSpeak is a software company that's using VR to help people learn to present. Instead of getting students to stand in front of a group of other students in their lab, they can put on a VR kit and imagine this room. Same environment, the same size, the same kind of audience, all virtual. I've tried it and you get nervous. You put it on and you get that feeling of the room looking at you. And you can move around. And you can see the screens, and you can see the monitor, and you can practice this. It's really good. It's too expensive now, but 5 years' time, we could be using these in our class, giving presentations and so on. Here's a really interesting one from EOP. Already, this is a Japanese company that's created a nurse training app, virtual reality setting, so that nurses can train how to be a nurse using VR. Of course, you can add on language as part of that. So you hear the English complaint from the patient, and then they have to reply. And we can monitor it and study that. So I think VR has a lot of opportunities for the future. It is the future, but be aware of it. It's coming. I'm pretty sure it's coming. Okay, so let me finish. Not finished. One last thing. What we have from the impacts of this are truly immersive educational environments. Really immersive. We also have this anytime, anywhere training or learning. They could do it at home if they have the game, if they have the equipment. And the new thing is MoveX, massive open online virtual communities where everybody's got the VR equipment on, and you can actually talk to April in New Zealand through the VR and move and talk and so on. And thousands of people could do the same. So we have a real classroom environment or a real conference environment through VR. Okay, so to finish, I think ESP is moving towards this supportive idea. So we need ESP instructors who can support the teaching of EMI courses. That's one big shift. Okay, not a replacement, but a support. Bigger, better ESP. So more integrated ESP programs in and across institutions. So we need to be team players, working teams to develop it. More MOOCs and more MoveX. So we need to get that technology. And then smarter ESP. So we use big data and AI to understand the needs, to understand the level, to understand the performance, and maybe even to create materials and create ways we can evaluate students. So supportive, bigger, better, and smarter. I'll finish there. Thank you. Do we have any questions?
We may have questions, but honestly, we're running behind, and you're going to be around.
I will be around, yes.
So, please find Professor Anthony and welcome him. Thank him again for his. Thank you all, please. Small token of appreciation. Professor Anthony.
Well, then bring that. If you would like the slides for this talk, just email me. My email address is on the screen. I will send it. Just email me directly to say, hi Laurence, I saw your talk. Please give me your slides.
For those of you who cannot read it, it's Anthony at waseda.jp. Waseda, WASEDA.jp. Okay, time for a coffee break. Are you ready? Take 15 minutes, come on back, and we'll have our next plenary on the coffee break.